All right, guys, what's up? Okay, I'm going to talk about how I got into bodybuilding and um, how I started training at one of the most hardcore gyms in the world, and how that kind of helped me, and um, just kind of get into it and other things. So I was in high school. I was a really really skinny kid. I played high level soccer. I was always on the number one soccer team in the whole Texas. 1 through 5, the teams I played on. Didn't eat much food, didn't work out, and I we had a bench press. I think the bar at school one day, or like 75 pounds or something like that. And I got underneath there, and I couldn't do it one time. So I was very competitive. I just wasn't a weightlifter or a bodybuilder at that time. So I had my mom buy me for Christmas or my birthday one of those little weeder benches at home. Like where you set the bench like in the middle like that, and it had like a little leg extension on it and all that. Didn't know anything. You got to remember, there was no YouTube. There was nothing out there to know how to train. So I did what everybody did pretty much at that time. I would do bench press every day, curls every day, and I did leg extensions every day because I played soccer. So completely neglecting my back, which hurt me later on when I started competing because I didn't train back for years or properly. So I started putting on muscle really fast. I was freshman year in high school. I was 115 pounds, okay? I started working out after that, and I got up to 165 sophomore year, okay? And then that summer, I got into bodybuilding. I wanted to get into bodybuilding more. A lot of kids at my school on the football team were taking steroids at that time. So I was tempted because I'm like, I still saw myself as like really skinny. I saw how they were like, really jacked. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take some steroids. And I remember this guy, I saved up some money and bought a bottle of testosterone from. Okay, so I didn't know how to use it or anything. So I was like, I'm going to go up to Metroflex gym. That's in Arlington, Texas, where I grew up, and I'm just gonna walk in. I was a bold little kid. I was just like a little shit, and so I went in there, not knowing anybody. Go straight to the desk, where the owner there, Brian Dobson, is, and I'm like, hey, how do you use this? And he looks at it and is like, he goes, dude, kids, steroids are for pussies, and this is not even real. It has the bottle didn't even have a capper on it. It was torn off, and just the plunger was in there. So what they probably did was took the testosterone out and put some like cooking oil in there. So he saved me from starting to take cooking oil at a young age, and so I didn't start using steroids until later on. And he goes, steroids are for pussies. And I said, okay, I'm like, I'd like to work out here. Let me see if I can, ask my mom if she'll get me a membership. He goes, and at that time I was, I think 16. And so I was about 5'6", 185 pounds, but ripped. I mean, I was ripped. So I still saw that really skinny kid in the mirror, but he saw something. He goes, I'll tell you what, come in here and train and promise me to not touch that stuff, and I'll let you work out here for free. You also hear about, he did this to Ronnie and Branch Warren. Brian Dobson, the owner of Metroflex, is a good guy. He's a great man. And, I was intimidated. I mean, you got to remember, back then there wasn't these other classes. There wasn't men's physique. There wasn't anything else. And I fell in love with bodybuilding, like just everything about it. I started getting all the magazines. I remember I couldn't afford the magazines. I'd go to the grocery store and I'd get like 4 or 5 different ones, and I'd put them in my pants and steal them. And I would steal protein bars. I was a little thief at that age. But, so I started working out there. And I was around Ronnie Coleman, Gus Carter, that was his training partner, Branch Warren and Johnny Jackson, all at that training next to these people at that time. And then I also joined Gold's Gym also because it was real close to my house, so I could ride my bicycle too. So and then because I think I got a car later on that year, a little like older car, but I had to ride my bicycle first, so I got a membership at Gold's Gym down the street too. So I was training at both gyms. At Metroflex, they weren't too nice to me there. The owner was, but the people that worked out there, the bodybuilders, it wasn't. It's just a different era. It was hardcore. You know, it was just they were just kind of assholes to me, but they were doing it to make me tough, and I just didn't see it at the time. But I didn't get my feelings hurt easy because I wasn't sensitive. And then at Gold's Gym, a lot of people went back and forth to the two gyms because Gold Gyms had AC and a lot more equipment. Metroflex really didn't have cardio equipment, and all the bodybuilders were telling me like, you need to compete. You got big legs, because from soccer. You're ripped, this and this, and I'm like, I don't even know how to compete. So I remember this guy named Danny. He was a trucker. He was like, I'll help you prep for your show. Come find me, or I'll see you at the gym in a couple months. He had to go, he was a truck driver, like do this tour or whatever, and we'll get started. So in a couple months, I never saw him. He never came back. And so I wanted to start prepping for a show. So my dad knew this guy named Ronnie Swire. He just recently passed away about a year ago. He was a top bodybuilder in the 90s, one of the best posers. He sent me to him. He's like, hey, I can write you a diet and stuff, but to get into bodybuilding, eventually there's going to be, steroids. Come back to me when you're 18 and we can kind of, talk about that kind of stuff too, because it's involved. So I got a local guy to help me out, and, I won my first 4 shows. My first 2 shows were natural. My other 2 shows I started taking stuff, and but I won it with my genetics. A lot of this stuff the guy had us do was not that great, and so I would look great like a few weeks out and burn a bunch of muscle, but I still won because I was shredded to the bone. I always had the best conditioning, and so we grew up, and there was no choice to be like in these other classes. So I wanted to be a top professional bodybuilder. So you looked up to Ronnie Coleman. I knew I could never look like Ronnie Coleman. I just knew that wasn't in my genetics. But I could look of the best version of me. And so I started putting on muscle really fast. Like I said, at 18, I prepped for my first show in high school. I bulked up all the way to 240 pounds, and I dieted down to 180 and won the next show, won the next show, won the next show. So I think it was a Lee Priest Classic, Ronnie Coleman Classic, John Sherman Classic, Red River Classic in the overall at that show. And so that set me on. And so I went to the Nationals after that. I got, I believe, 4th that year at Nationals. And it was weird because I didn't win, and I was used to winning. And so that made me work even harder. Then I met Dave Palumbo at that show. He kind of took me under his wing and started showing me, some stuff. And he helped me the next year for that show where I placed 3rd and looked better. But that's how I got into it. And we worked really, really hard because there wasn't any other options. Now, there's other options. Okay, I can do men's physique. I don't have to work that hard. We had open bodybuilding. There was no other 212 classic physique. So this is what we had to, had in our mind, how hard we had to work. Now the work ethic, let me tell you something. When I used to train at Metroflex, it was just a madhouse in there. I've never seen people train like that today. People just don't train hard anymore. And people complain a lot. They're always like, man, this and this and this and this. That wasn't, so I grew up in a little different area that made us stronger. Now, a lot of people complain too much. You got to stop complaining. And if you want to do this bodybuilding thing, it's not easy. It's hard. It's very, very hard. But you got to be loyal to somebody. Pick somebody you trust, a coach, a friend, or whatever, to help you out, because people just coach hop all the time. They think someone has a secret potion or secret drug. It's not that. It's about hard work. It's not comfortable. It's extremely hard dieting. And so that's kind of how I got into bodybuilding. A lot of good came out of it. I ended up shooting a Netflix documentary at Metroflex and had a great career. And I retired a little early, but I was happy with my career. That's how it went, guys.